When it comes to marketing your VO business, email marketing is king. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, welcome, and happy Monday to the voiceover huddle, where we meet every morning, every weekday morning at this time to talk about moving your voiceover business forward. We've got over 1,500 videos designed to do just that you can always go back and watch later, but we do it live every morning just to kind of kick the day off right and get into it. My name is Mike Hathcote. I'm a full-time voice talent. Just wrote a book called The Voiceover Blueprint, where you can get the audiobook, the digital download, and 4 free gifts for less than $10 if you want to click the description below. And also, don't forget to chat or chime in on the chat so we can do some shout outs here shortly, as well as hit the like and subscribe and notification bell so you can get this content as quickly as possible. All right. Hope you had a great weekend. Today, we're going to talk about what I think is the most important way to grow your business. And there's lots of ways to market your voiceover business. You've got social media, you can do platforms like pay to plays and that kind of thing. You can even do cold calling. But if you ask any full-time voice actor out there how they've been able to grow and sustain their business, almost all of them, I'll bet, will tell you that it's email marketing. It's just the way you do it. And that's how I've done it. That's how I've built my business over the years. Of course, email marketing is the process of going online, Googling production houses of all different kinds and reaching out and introducing yourself, pointing them to your website so they can hear your demos, and then hopefully get either put on their roster or whatever so that they can reach out to you when they have a project that fits your voice. Now, to do this, you must be pro, meaning you have to have professional quality demos and a good quality website to send people. You've probably heard me talk about this over and over again, but you should not do any email marketing without first having a quality demo or demos, plural, and a good website. Because if you're just working with a DIY demo situation, you're competing against the best of the best. So you need to put that best foot forward when you're reaching out. So that's the qualifier for doing any email marketing, is making sure you have that in place first. Then it's just a matter of rinsing and repeating, right? You just literally day in, day out, all day long, right? And this is what I've done and currently still do when I'm not recording. And of course, my assistant has taken over the bulk of that, reaching out on my behalf. But whenever I'm having a slower day or, in between jobs, I kick into direct marketing mode and email marketing, to be specific. So every now and then, something comes along though that moves the needle in a big way when it comes to, well, anything really, but especially for email marketing in the voiceover space. And I've been kind of waiting to talk to you about this until I got everything kind of set up, or got everything kind of, well, yeah, set up. A gentleman by the name of Jonathan Grant, who some of you may know. He's a name, kind of a known name in the voiceover industry. He joined the Voiceover Blueprint back in 2022. He's a software engineer who had retired from that and was going to go into voiceover. So he joined the Blueprint. I worked with him with a couple of demos and kind of some performance stuff, and we got him where he needed to be. And he has since gone on to be a full-time voice actor, which is the goal, right? But I guess Jonathan couldn't shake that old software engineer itch that he had, and he has created something that has gotten a lot of buzz in the broader voiceover industry, and it's related to email marketing. he has created not one, but two pieces of software that, as I said before, have really kind of moved the needle way forward and is going to save a ton of time when it comes to your email marketing. And those two things are two programs called VOLeads and VOInbox. Now, you may, like I said, have heard of these already, but I'm going to explain them a little bit, because what I did is I reached out to Jonathan to talk about this a while back. And the reason why he created these two platforms is to kind of address one of the biggest challenges in email marketing, which is finding qualified leads, not just shooting in the dark. And of course, the time it takes to find qualified leads. Because the process beforehand used to be put in some keywords in Google, research the company, try to find an email or a name of someone that you can reach out to. Go ahead and reach out to them, then wait for the reply if there is one. And then, of course, follow up and stay in touch and hopefully get hired. That's the old way of doing it. So here's what both of these programs do. I'll start with VOLeads. VOLeads is a program that basically goes and does that busy work for you. It finds the leads for you. It gets you the name, the email address of the person, so you don't have to do any of that. It actually makes sure, through some sort of sorcery and AI learning or something, it finds qualified leads for you and basically delivers them to you in a curated list for you to then take and then do your email marketing, sending out individual emails to them. But it takes the biggest part of the problem out of the equation, which is finding qualified leads. So that's the first thing. VOLeads is the name of it, VOLeads.com. Now, the second one that he created is basically that on steroids. And the way this one works, it finds those leads just like it does in the first program. But the second program is kind of a more white glove, do it for you situation, where it will actually find the leads and then send out the emails for you using templates that you create. So they're not some cookie cutter template. They're templates that you create. They send them out, and then they send 4 follow-up emails, which is always, this is something that you have to do with potential clients, even if you're doing it on your own. You have to follow up. So what VOInbox does is it actually sends out the initial email and then 4 follow-up emails over the course of this campaign. So, and those follow-ups are like, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, just to make sure that you're staying on the radar. Now, the cool part and the magic part here is that when they reply back to you, then it's your responsibility to take it from there. And then that it turns off the campaign, because you don't want to keep emailing them these template emails if you've already been able to contact them and discuss, and talk to them. So somebody replies back, it shuts off the campaign, so they don't get any more automated emails. Then it's up to you to kind of, build the relationship. So, and it's all done for you. You literally set it and forget it. So this is something that I've been using for a while. I wouldn't point you anywhere to anything that I've not used myself. So I've used them for a while, and it seriously takes all the guesswork out. Once again, I don't know what kind of sorcery they've been using, or maybe Jonathan went down to the crossroads or something. I don't know. But anyway, this thing is major. Of course, the same qualifier applies. You have to be a professional voice actor, meaning quality demos, quality website. You don't necessarily have to be full-time, but you do have to have that criteria set in place first. Excuse me, first. So we're not working on DIY demos at this point. So, like I said before, I reached out to Jonathan to kind of see if I could talk him into giving me some sort of a coupon code that I could pass along to you guys. And he did. So this goes for both VOLeads and VOInbox. If you'd like to try those out and you want a break, basically he's going to give you 25 new fresh leads for each of those platforms. If when you sign up, you use the code Blueprint, that will get you 25 leads for both programs so that you can check it out and try it. So there you go. One thing that's also great about this service, especially the VOInbox service, is that Jonathan will meet with you one-on-one to kind of walk you through the steps in the process and give you some tips and best practices to have it work the best for you. So when I say white glove, it is white glove. He will hold your hand to make sure that everything is set up properly, and also to make sure that what you have to offer will work on the platform. So they don't take everybody. So they're pretty selective. So like I said, that's why you have to have those good demos and a good website and be, have a real business going here versus just a hobbyist. Okay. Because there are definitely people that he's turned down because they're just not there yet. So if you fit into that category, go to VOLeads or VOInbox.com, use code Blueprint, and you will be able to get 25 leads for each of those platforms. Like I said, this is getting a huge buzz in the VO industry because it really is moving the needle for a lot of people, myself included. So there you go. All right, let's talk to people today. Let's jump in and see who's here. There's Marlene's first in this morning from Fresno. There's Nancy from Yankton, South Dakota. And Corey from Whitehall, Wisconsin. Jason from Kearney, Nebraska. Got it. Boomer McBoom from San Emilio Mountains. There's Edward from Jacksonville, Florida, and Wayne from Port Orchard, Washington. Sarah Boyd from Kentucky. And there's David from Hamilton, Ontario. And there's JJ. She didn't say it, but I know her, and she's from Minnesota. There's Jim from Memphis. Dennis from Pasadena. And there's John from Denver. And there's Bob, good morning, from Wadsworth, Ohio. And Sean from Longview. There's Alex from Utah. Andrew from Latvia. There's JR from Austin, Texas. By the way, let me know if you have any questions about VOLeads or VOInbox too. I'll answer what I can about those, but Jonathan is more of the expert, obviously, since he built it out. Voice 156 from Holland. Good morning to you. Big Daddy Forever. Good morning from Flagstaff, just up the road here, about 3 hours. And there's Wayne from Port Orchard. There's Clint from right down the street in Chandler, Arizona. Clint's going to come over to my house later this afternoon and check out my setup situation. He's local and is looking to get into it. So we chatted the other day, and he's going to stop by, and we're going to hang for a bit. There's Paul. Paul says, hello. Jim says, what is the anime market? I don't understand how they work. Well, the anime market is basically the same as any animation, cartoon voiceover market. Anime is a subset of animation shows or movies that are basically made based on Asian or Japanese, more specifically Japanese animation, and the colloquial term is just anime. And I think Speed Racer was one of the early anime titles out there, but way back in the 80s. But anyway, and that's what anime is. So it's just a subset of just general animation voiceover. Jim also says VO read. No, it's VOLeads. Leads. LEADS or VOInbox. So it's VOLeads.com and VOInbox.com. Dennis says, should a VO newbie rely on sites like Fiverr and Upwork to get work until a professional demo is developed and then initiate your email marketing campaign? Yeah, that's pretty much what you have to do. Those are kind of the entry-level jobs, if you want to call them that, or maybe the minor leagues. Not to say you can't get major league work on there, which you can. A lot of people don't realize that, because they talk a lot of crap about Fiverr and Upwork, but you can get major league jobs on there from major league companies paying major league dollars, but people don't realize that because it's called Fiverr and they think it's all just $5 jobs, and it's not. But yes, most of your entry-level jobs are also on Fiverr. In fact, that's what they mostly are. Those big name jobs are few and far between, but they're there. You just have to work the system to get them. But yes, when you're just dealing with a DIY situation at this point, that's kind of where you have to live, is on those sites. That's really the only place to get work. Now, I'm not saying you should stop doing those sites when you do get a pro demo. I think what you should do, and this is something that I've done, is move beyond the platforms. Don't get off of them, but grow beyond them. So when you get your pro demos, that's when you start doing your direct marketing, and then you can put those pro demos on those platforms if you want to be more competitive. And then, like I said, diversify your revenue that way. Don't leave any money on the table anywhere out there. It's kind of what we talked about with me getting back on pay to plays after Amy's class last week. I was pretty down on pay to plays until she explained kind of the way to work it. And now I'm back on there because I want to get that one revenue stream coming in to add to my mix. Good question, though. There's Terry from Fallston, Maryland. Buddy says, hey, Mike, was a few days into email marketing, about 40 emails, received a response from a small production camp out of South Carolina. A week later, completed a 30-second dry read, which they used in a commercial and got paid. That is how it works, buddy. That is how it works. And hopefully they'll come back to you again and again and again and again every time they need you. You have to put a lot out there to get a little bit back. And a lot of people don't realize the volume of emails and contacts you have to put out there just to get a little bit back. And so what VOLeads does and VOInbox does is leads get you, cuts all the time out of having to research and find the right people. So that's huge. And then, of course, VOInbox will take that to the next level by actually sending out the emails for you and sending those follow-ups on a schedule so that you always stay in touch. I've literally had people reply back to my first email, my very first cold email, over a year later and give me work. So just because you send out an email and you don't hear back from them that day or that week or that month or even that year doesn't mean that they will not reply back. You're basically scattering seeds, right? You're scattering seeds out there, as many as you can. Maybe not all of them are going to catch and grow something, but one or two will. And you just got to keep doing it. That's the way email marketing works. Jim says, my experience with a website was with a publisher who changed $100 first year, $250 the next. I'm not sure what you're referring to on that, Jim. There's Ethan from Toronto, Canada, and John from ATL. Good morning, Tracy from Rochester, Minnesota. Hey, and there's Mary from New Jersey. Jason says, hey now, you said Carney correctly. Yep, I was corrected on that quite abruptly. So I'm going to make sure I say it like that from now on. Chris says, there's Chris from London, sorry. And there's Jason again, says, by the way, I keep reaping the benefits of your advice and keep finishing and booking more audio books. Thank you, Mike. Can't wait to keep growing and getting better and more profitable. I love to hear that. Thank you, Jason. And I'm so glad you're able to, continue to, rinse and repeat that. You just got to keep doing it. Jim says, have packed in on Fiverr. They would not allow me to make changes on my profile. Um, I don't know about that. I mean, it depends on what the changes are. They do have rules about putting your personal information on there, so that may be part of it. But a lot of people do really well on Fiverr. In fact, of course, you guys have probably heard of Mallory Deweese, or Mallory Hanford, who is Bill Deweese's daughter. She makes over 6 figures on Fiverr, and so some people can do that just on Fiverr. It's very rare, but we always try to keep that information updated. So we're going to actually, our next monthly class is going to be focused on Fiverr. I'll get more into that later, but if you're struggling on Fiverr, that would be the class to get, but we'll talk about that when time comes. Autumn says, how did you build your home studio? Did you hire a contractor who specializes in building home studios? No, I bought this. Most studios that you can buy are kits, and they're just built with, walls already built, and you just assemble it at your house. Most of the companies who sell those do that. Now, I know people who have hired a contractor or done it themselves and just looked up plans and just built from scratch in their own homes if you want to save some cash, because it's always going to be more expensive to buy a pre-made booth like this versus building it from scratch yourself. So you're paying for the convenience of actually getting the booth. So it just arrived on a pallet and I just assembled it, and it already had the foam in it and everything. I put some bass traps in and stuff. And then of course, put everything in here. That logo behind me is actually an acoustic panel as well. So yeah, I did all the inside stuff, but it just showed up on a pallet and I put it all together. Nathan says, good morning. I just sent my first batch of cold emails last week, about 70 emails to UK audiobook publishers. Perfect. Keep doing it. 70s, while that sounds like a lot, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not quite, but just keep doing that, or as many as you can do over and over again. When I first started doing email marketing years and years ago, I had a checklist that I would go through every day, and I would send out at least 50 a day, at least. And then, of course, if I could do more than that, great. But the thing that took the longest time was doing that research and finding the right people to reach out to. And then if you come across a great website of a producer that you like, you have to spend even more time trying to find a name of a person and an email address. Maybe they only have a contact form. Well, VOLeads, through some kind of magic, has figured out a way to actually give you a curated list of not only the name and the production company, but the email address, the proper email address to send it to. So it takes all of that time suck away. So it's great. Andrew says, sometimes the voiceover on animes are not as good as you would like. So there is a market there. Yeah. Yeah. And those are the kind that probably are not, they're going to be harder to use AI for that kind of a job, an anime job, or any kind of decent quality um, animated project. They're going to need humans for that. So it's going to be a long time before before AI does that. Nathan says, keeping the emails 100, less than 100 words, looking to show the value of what I offer in that particular niche. Any tips on what e-learning and commercial production houses are looking for to highlight when emailing? Nathan makes a good point. Whenever you're sending those emails, short and sweet is key. You don't write War and Peace in your email. Just keep it short and sweet. Who you are. Here's a link to my website. Here's how I can help you help yourself. But it's asking, you know, on tips that e-learning and commercial production houses are looking for. They're typically looking for, um, high quality, quick turnaround. Of course, that pretty much goes for anyone, really. Um, E-learning in particular, I have something in my email where I say something like, how do I word that? Something like, it's important to keep learners engaged, and I can help you with that because I've worked with so and so and so and so, and so yeah, I do a lot of e-learning, and the whole ball game in e-learning is to keep the listener awake, right? Because we've all done those e-learning or gone through e-learning modules where the narrator is just droning along, and it's just terrible. So I explained to them that, hey, I can do an engaging and dynamic recording to keep them awake while still, getting the information across. Jim says some do get back on the day I sent the email. Oh yeah, it happens. It happens. But here's the thing: when you send out an email, um, or when you send out a batch of emails, if you're getting say 2 to 3%, maybe 4, you're killing it. And so that is the kind of ratio we're talking about here. So, sure, you could get somebody that replies back that day, and I do get those quite often. And of course, then it's your job to just follow up as quickly as you can and help develop that relationship. That's another thing that's so great about VOInbox is that it sends those emails for you, and then as soon as they reply back, it shuts it off. So then it turns it over to you so that you can do your thing. So yeah, that's a good point, Jim. They do get back that same day sometimes. He also says getting my website online costs that on those terms. Well, your website is everything. So, you can move if you don't like their pricing, you can move to a different platform for your website, but your website is absolutely crucial to sustaining your job. It just is. Pro demos and a good website, that's it. If you don't have either of those, it's going to be really hard for you to make a full-time go at this, and really even a part-time. Chris says, does VOLeads and VOInbox work for UK folks? Um, or are there a good UK equivalent? That's a good question, Chris. And actually, Jonathan chimed in. Hey, Jonathan. Chimed in and says, our platforms are currently focused on US-based contacts. Um, we welcome our UK-based friends to check them out and see if it's a fit for you. Yeah, so just because you are a UK person, if you have a UK accent, doesn't mean you can't market outside of the UK. I think I talked about that way back when we were talking about um, accents, maybe. But anyway, just because you live in the UK doesn't mean you can't market to US clients, right? And vice versa. If you're a US based, you can market in the UK. They need American voices as much as maybe UK or America needs UK voices. Who knows? But, it looks like right now, Jonathan's saying that it's primarily US based. Jim says, "How do you know who the right companies are?" Well, that's the thing. It takes time. That's why you have to research their website. Here's what I do, and I'm not sure Jonathan could probably speak to this because he's the one who built this thing. But what I do is that when I get to a website, I dig in deep and I try to find usually in their reel, in their all their demos that they showcase what they can do, I try to find a demo or a reel that actually has someone doing a VO in it, you know? If all they do are interview videos, corporate interview videos where they just sit down and interview people with no VO, they're probably not the right fit. So the way I decide whether they're a right fit to reach out to or not is I look for their content and see if they've got people doing voiceover in their content that they've produced. If they do, that's who I reach out to because I know that they do voiceovers. And that's probably, and Jonathan can let me know, that's probably how they do it too. Jonathan also says, "Hey, Mike and everyone, I hope you guys crush it this week. Thank you, buddy." Nathan says, "Brilliant. Great insight. Thanks for that. Now I'm starting to get replies coming in from the first batch of emails. It's time to figure out what to do for that second email, right?" Exactly. Um, what I usually do is I just let them know, "Hey, thanks for the fast reply," especially if they do reply that day or, within a day or two. I say, "Thanks for the fast, reply. I know you're busy. I really appreciate that. I'm, looking forward to collaborating with you on a project soon," and just leave it at that. That knows that, or that lets them know that you have gotten their reply and that you have now earmarked them as a potential client. And then you can follow up with them maybe in another 90 days or something, just to make sure that they know you're still out there and doing it. Of course, everybody who replies back to me, I then enter them into my CRM so that I can track when they replied back. I keep all their pertinent information so that I can always follow up. So yeah, it's a process for sure, but so well worth it. Jonathan says, VOLeads gives you full access to every company website before you unlock that lead. Oh, that's cool. So you're looking for evidence that they hire VO. This shows up in their work. Yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned before. Before you actually unlock the lead, you actually can see their website to make sure that it is something that you want to pursue. Kevin says, I'm on pay to play, but have never done email. This sounds interesting. Oh man, if you're just on pay to play, unless you're like Amy, who makes, her vast, majority of her income on pay to plays, um, email marketing is a giant missing piece if you're not doing it. I mean, like I said, that's how I've gotten, let me think here, probably 75% of my overall, day-to-day work comes from email marketing, comes from clients that I've just reached out to way back sometime. I've reached out to cold, introduced myself. They've sent me some work, or maybe I, won an audition that they sent me or something, and I've continued to work for them over and over and over again. That's how you build a long-term sustaining company. If you're just on pay to plays, or if you're just on any platform really, and you've got all your eggs in that basket, and then they do something wacky like Voice123 did a few years ago, where they just changed everything, including their algorithm and how everything works. People who were doing very well on those sites, all of a sudden were getting nothing. And if you've put all your eggs in that basket, your business is over. So don't ever put all your eggs in that basket. Diversification and email marketing is a gigantic piece of that pie. Oh, okay. Kevin says side hustle money only so far. Okay, that's okay. And that's about right. I mean, most people who are on pay to plays really just make enough for it to be a side hustle. But if you take that side hustle money, whatever that amounts, let's say it's, an extra $10,000 or something for the year, whatever. That's $10,000 you didn't have before. And you just add that to the pile, right? If you're trying to do a full-time thing, every one of those is an avenue for revenue, an avenue for revenue. And you got to have as many of those as you can so that you can build your overall career. Nathan says, that's great to hear. I was feeling pressure to ask questions in the response email to keep the conversation going and forge more of a link. So it's good to hear you can thank them for the moment. Yeah. You don't want to just continue, whacking the ball back and forth with them. Just tell them, hey, I appreciate your reply. Awesome. Looking forward to working with you. Then you put them in your CRM or whatever you're using to keep track of everyone. And then maybe 2, 3 months down the line, you follow up again just to tap them on the shoulder, let them know you're still available, rinse and repeat. Kevin says, I'm on Bunny Studio. Yeah, that's another one that a lot of people, or some people, are on. Once again, that's side hustle money. Um, you add a bunch of those up and it may add up to something, but I'm telling you, if you ask any full-time voice talent, they'll tell you that email marketing is how they've built their business and sustained that business. Autumn says, "Can you do VO full time?" Absolutely, I do, and I have been for years. Yes, yes, plenty, thousands. There are thousands and thousands of full-time voice talent. You just have to know how to go out and market yourself. Um, it's the it's my dream job, and so yeah, full time is the way to go. If that's what you want to do. I'm not trying to force anybody into full time voice acting, but if that's what you want to do, you can definitely do it. Kevin says, exactly. It's been our spending money. I didn't realize the number would be 75%. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. If you're just using pay to plays as kind of spending money, that's fine. That's fine. If you've got a full time job and you just kind of dabble around the edges. But if you really want to make a go at this full time and make, you know, whatever your goal is to make, the good thing about this is there is no cap. There's no income ceiling. You can make as much money as you want. Um, you can only make enough. You can only make so much money working for someone else. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of taking the reins yourself and being your own boss. And sky's the limit. Chris says, "What kind of a weekly or monthly cost would it be for the website needed for this work?" Well, I think if you were like, say, go to GoDaddy and use the GoDaddy website builder, which I'm a big fan of. I used it for years and years before I switched to my current site. Um, I think they charge something like it's like $220 a year for your website. So that's nothing. I mean, you can get one job more than that. So, you know, that's gonna be about what you're gonna run your as far as your website goes, give or take. It depends on who you get. But yeah, a couple $100 a year, well worth it. Nathan says, "A wealth of wisdom." Thank you. Really got fed up with the Fiverr ecosystem when someone on the team told me that VO sales have decreased 50% on the site in the last 2 years. Email marketing is king. Great point, Nathan. And the reason why, here's the reason why that Fiverr's VO offerings have dropped 50%. If that's true. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess it is. It's artificial intelligence. Those are the jobs, those low-end jobs on Fiverr that used to be very plentiful. Yeah, they were low end and low pay, but they were there if you wanted to do them. Those jobs are the ones that are getting eaten up by AI because those people are okay with just good enough. They just need something good enough, so they're switching it over to AI. But the jobs that actually still do use human talent, who need emotion and the kind of things that we can provide as humans, they're still hiring in big time. Just since we've been sitting here, I've gotten 3 different jobs come in for, higher paying work, for radio work and stuff like that. They're gonna need VO. They're gonna need humans for a long time. But the reason why Fiverr and some of those other platforms have lowered or have lost a lot of VO work is because people are switching to AI, which is even more of a reason to get good quality demos, a good website, and email market your own talent. Jim says, "I don't know what the word is for the company that puts a website online, but the expense is what I said." It's called a host. A lot of places, though, will host things like if you use GoDaddy, for instance, the hosting is included. If you have a third-party company build your website for you, then you have to find a hosting company to actually get it online. So there's a couple of ways to go there. Most of your kind of template website builders like GoDaddy and Wix and Squarespace and some of those other places, they have hosting included. So it's all paid for all in one thing. If you build it on your own, or if you hire someone to build you the website and then you need a place to put it, then that's an extra cost. That's called a host. The place that I use to host my website is called Upper Level Hosting. If you want to check them out. Autumn says, my dream too. Just need to build up my skills and confidence. Amen to that, Autumn. There is a lot to learn, but it's so rewarding once you learn it. I talked the other day on Thursday about how it's simple but not easy. The voiceover business is once you learn, the hard part is learning it, but once you've learned it, it's pretty simple. The steps you need to go through. Once you've learned the basics and kind of have a good foundation, then it's just a matter of going out there and getting it. And that's what we teach in the voiceover blueprint to help you do that day in, day out, month in, month out, and so forth. Chris said, would a GoDaddy type be acceptable for VOLeads? I think so. As long as the website is, and actually Jonathan came in right afterward and answered that. He says, you just need a good looking website with your pro demos near the top of the page. Yep. Whenever I teach a class on website do's and don'ts, I always tell people to put all the need to have content, meaning your contact information and your demos, whether they be audio or video, above the fold. And that's an old newspaper term for where they fold the paper in half. They put all the good stuff above, all the big headlines above that fold. Well, the fold on your computer screen is the bottom of your screen. So when someone lands on your website, you want it to just be page 1, demos, contact info. That's it. I mean, not that's it. Those are the needs to have things. Nice to have if you have a logo and you have, companies you've worked for and all that kind of stuff. That's all nice to have, and do it if you want. But really, your website comes down to 2 things. Here's my demos. Here's how you contact me. So as long as you've got a really nice looking, well-built website with that information on there, then you are a good candidate for VOLeads or VOInbox. But Jonathan will double check it just to make sure that you are, you fit that category. Grant says, just tuned in. Is there a training that lays out how to get email marketing started? Or could I just book a session directly with you so I can get set up for success? Yeah, you can do either. I mean, there's all kinds of, training programs out there that talk about this. But yeah, send me an email to training@thevoiceoverblueprint.com and we can get something set up. But yeah, email marketing, your business in voiceover is 100% how you win in this business. Andrew says there are many hosting companies starting from $4.95 a month. Yeah. I can't remember how mine is. I think I pay mine per year. Usually companies like that will give you a price break if you pay it all at once for a year or more versus just going month to month. Plus, I always like paying for the year. That way I know it's paid for. If you're going monthly, anything can happen, every month. Your credit card could get lost and then you fail, you get a new card and you forget to update your credit card information and then your site crashes or, goes off because it didn't renew. And so at least I know that for the year I'm paid for or longer. Chris says, I went to drama school many years ago. Do you have info on the demos? Well, if you went to drama school, that's great. I mean, that just helps you in your performance when you're doing VO. As far as info on the demos, I mean, there's once again, that's something that I do for people. I help with demos. So if you want to shoot me an email, training@thevoiceoverblueprint.com, I'm happy to help with that. There's lots of different demos that people start with when they're first, kind of ramping up into this business. A lot of people will mostly start with a commercial demo because you can kind of show most range. Not everyone, but most people will start with a commercial one just because you have a lot of different reading styles on those demos. So that's where a lot of people start, but not everyone. Depends on kind of where your focus wants to be. John says, are you including broadcast rights into your price with email marketed clients? Or is it added on? How are you negotiating that? Good question, John. So when you well, first of all, broadcast rights is kind of a term that a lot of people on Fiverr use because that's kind of what they call it on there. What the broader industry calls broadcast rights is basically just usage. Where is this gonna be used and for how long? And so I price that based on the situation. Um, every now and then someone will ask for my rate sheet, and we talked about rates a while back as well. If someone asks for my rate sheet, I put on there, what the base price is. And of course, if there's going to be a longer run, if it's going to be on the radio for 6 months or on TV for a year or whatever, then of course, those rates are going to be applied. And I use the GVAA rate guide for that. We've talked about that before as well. That's where I find the rates, at least a ballpark, and then it can be negotiated from there. A lot of the agencies already have that factored in. So when they send out an audition, here's what it pays. But once again, the way to get on those agencies is email marketing, right? So everybody who sends you an audition, whether it be an agency or a direct producer or a roster that you're on, sometimes they're just going to have a price. And that price will, if they're a reputable agency or a reputable producer, it will be built into the rate that it's going to be on TV for, mid-market TV for 6 months or something like that. And that's built into the rate. If it's not, and they ask for a quote, then I quote based on that because they'll usually spell out what it is, who it's for, how long it's going to be out there, what type of, run is it going to be. So it's all going to be, you know, relative to the job, I guess is the best way to put it. Jim says examples of places to design a website. Well, I mentioned GoDaddy. That's the one that I like a lot. Um, and that's the one I used for probably almost 10 years before I switched to the one that I'm currently using. So it's really great. It's not expensive at all. Like I said, it's about 200 and something dollars a year. Usually that includes the domain name as well. And it's very simple to use. There's other companies out there like Wix, Squarespace. You can hire someone to build you a website using WordPress. And then, of course, you have to find a host at that point. If someone builds you a WordPress site, then you have to have a place to put the files. And that's what a host does. So you take those files, you upload them to the host, and then everyone can see it. That's very simplified, but there's a lot more to that. But so, yeah, you could do that as well. All right. Wow, guys, we've really gone long today. So I'm going to get to work. So once again, if you want to check out VOLeads and VOInbox, VOLeads.com, VOInbox.com, use the code Blueprint, and you'll get 25 leads for each of those. Thank you, Jonathan Grant, for offering that intro deal there. That's fantastic. I'm always looking for ways to kind of add value to what we teach here, both inside and outside the Blueprint. So want to thank you, Jonathan, for that. And yeah, I am going to get to work. Like I said, I've got several that just popped in a few minutes ago. So until tomorrow, break a lip. See ya.